Dear students, in this session, we will discuss what is known as the meaning and scope of economics, its nature, and the broad areas of study in economics. Let me start with a formal definition of what is economics. Now, economics deals with the allocation of scarce resources among alternative uses to satisfy human wants. Economics deals with allocation of scarce resources among alternative uses to satisfy human wants. This definition gives us everything about the nature and scope of economics. Let us consider each part of this definition in detail. Now let me define what is human wants. Human wants refers to all the goods and services and conditions of life that individuals desire. Human wants refers to all the goods and services and conditions of life that individuals desire. And these wants vary among different people over different periods of time and in different locations. Human wants vary from one person to another person, one time period to another period, and from one location to another location. As it is clear to us, human wants today is different from human wants 50 years ago. Wants of one person will be different from another person. Wants in one area will be different from another area. Still, human wants always seems to be greater than the goods and services. Stated differently, it is said that wants are unlimited, and the resources to satisfy these wants are limited. Even though you can satisfy fully your want for a few commodities, you will never be able to satisfy all the wants given the amount of goods and services available in the society at any time period. Now, to satisfy human wants, we use resources. We use resources. economic resources specifically. And economic resources are the inputs or the factors or the means of producing the goods we want. Economic resources are the inputs, the factors or the means of producing the goods and services we want. To satisfy human wants, goods and services are required. And to produce these goods and services, inputs are required. And these inputs are known as economic resources. And economic resources are broadly classified into land, also known as natural resources, labor, also known as human resources. Economic resources are broadly classified into land, natural resources, labor, human resources, and capital. And these are the resources that the firms, the producing entities must pay to hire. Or these are the resources used by the firms to produce goods and services to satisfy human wants. Now, let us see this in detail. Land means, what is land? Land means the fertility of the soil, the climate, the forests, and mineral deposits. Land includes fertility of the soil, the climate, the forests, and the mineral resources. All these are included in the category land. And what is labor? Labor refers to all human effort, both the physical and mental, that can be directed towards producing goods and services. So labor means all the human effort, physical and mental, directed towards producing goods and services. And what is capital? Capital refers to the machinery, the factories, equipments, tools, inventories, irrigation, transport and communication, etc. So machinery capital includes all the produced means of production used for the production of other goods and services. All the produced means of production, produced resources, facilitates the production of other goods and services. It includes machinery, factories, equipments, tools, inventories, irrigation, communication, transport, etc., etc. So these are the economic resources used to produce goods and services to satisfy human wants. And from the definition, it is clear that economic resources have alternative uses. Economic resources have alternative uses. A particular piece of land, for example, a particular piece of land could be used for constructing a factory, constructing a house, construct a road, a park, etc. So land as an economic resource has alternative uses. Used for agriculture, used for building a house, used for constructing a factory, used for constructing a road, park, etc. Similarly, a unit of labor could be used to provide cleaning services, used as a porter, used to the construction of bridges, as agricultural laborer, industrial laborer, banker, teacher, etc. Similarly, a student can be trained to become a teacher, an accountant, a lawyer, an economist, like that. Similarly, steel, a produced means of production, could be used to construct a bridge or to make a car. So resources have alternative uses. Economic resources used to produce goods and services to satisfy human wants have alternative uses. Every resource is capable of being used for alternative uses. Also, as resources are generally limited, not only that resources have alternative uses, they are limited. Compared to human wants, economic resources are limited. So because resources are generally limited, the amount of goods and services that any society can produce is also limited. Since resources are limited, a society cannot produce unlimited quantities of goods and services. So the society must choose. Society must choose. Choose what? Choose to make a decision regarding which commodities to be produced, which commodities to be sacrificed. So there is a choice problem. We will say that as resources are limited or scarce, every society faces a choice problem. Which commodities should be produced and which commodities to be sacrificed? Or in short, society can only satisfy some of its wants. It cannot satisfy all its wants, or scarcity is the most fundamental problem in every society. Scarcity is the most fundamental problem, fundamental fact faced by every society. Every society faces the problem of scarcity, so that every society faces the problem of choice. Choose the commodities to be produced. Which commodities to be produced to satisfy human wants? Which commodities to be sacrificed? And since the problem of choice is important, due to the pervasiveness of scarcity, every societies face the problem of choice. So every society faces the problem of what to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce, and how to provide for growth, of the system. So, the problem of scarcity of what? Scarcity of resources is so pervasive that every society is faced with the problem of what to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce, and how to provide for the growth of the system. Now let us see how the price system, we will explain price system later, performs each of these functions in a free enterprise economy. In a free enterprise economy or in a capitalist economy. Remember this, we are concerned with a free enterprise economy, a capitalist economy, where these problems are solved by, considered by the price system. We will explain price system later. Now, in a free enterprise economy, in a capitalist economy, individuals own property. Property is privately owned, we will say. And individuals and firms make economic decisions. Property is privately owned by the individuals. Decisions are taken by individuals and also firms. Decisions are taken by individuals and also firms. Now, given this framework, let us see how these problems are solved in a free enterprise capitalist economy by the price system. Now consider what to produce. What to produce refers to what goods and services a society should produce and in what quantities. What goods and services should be produced and in what quantities. That is, priorities should be given to the production of which goods and services. And what should be the quantity of each good and service to be produced. This problem arises because no society can produce everything it wants. There is always a scarcity of resources, so the society cannot produce all goods and services its members want. So it has to make a selection. What goods and services should be produced and in what quantities. Now, in a free enterprise capitalist economy, only those goods and services will be produced for which consumers are willing to and able to pay. Only those goods and services will be produced desired by the consumers. Their desire is expressed in the form of their willingness to pay and their ability to pay. So only those goods and services for which the consumer is willing to and able to pay a price which is sufficient to cover the cost of production will be produced. Cover the cost of production will be produced. And if the consumers want more of these commodities, it can induce the firms to produce more by expressing its willingness to pay more. So in a free enterprise economy, only those goods and services will be produced for which the consumers are willing to pay, and their willingness is expressed in the form of price. If the consumers offer a higher price for a good or service, it can induce the firms to produce more of the commodity. Now, regarding how to produce, it means what combination of inputs should be used to produce goods and services. That is, what combination of land, labor and capital should be used to produce goods and services. And as the prices of resources reflect their relative scarcity or abundance, firms will combine them in such a way as to minimize costs. For example, if capital is cheap relative to labor, more capital intensive technology will be used, and vice versa. So the type of techniques used to produce goods and services depends on the relative availability, scarcity or abundance of resources. And for home to produce deals with the question of how the production, the produce, the output is distributed among the members of the society. It is a question of distribution. And those households who own most of the resources will enjoy a larger share of the produce. In a free enterprise economy, distribution depends on the ownership of resources. More the amount of resources owned by a person, more will be the share of the person in the goods and services produced. So it is a question of distribution. And the last question that every economic system faces is how to provide for the growth of the nation. It is true that government plays a very crucial role in the growth of the system by providing incentives for research, for education, training, etc. Price system is also important. Price system also provides a very important link to provide for the growth of the system, growth of the economy. For example, interest is an incentive for economic units, households, to save more. It results in capital accumulation and future growth. Similarly, expectations of profits stimulate capital accumulation and technical improvements. Similarly, higher wages, wage is a price. Higher wages induce people to go for more training, more education, so as to increase their salary in future. So, let me conclude. Economics deals with the allocation of resources for alternative uses to satisfy human wants. Compared to human wants, resources are limited. So every economy faces the problem of allocation of resources, allocation of its scarce resources for the production of goods and services to satisfy human wants. In a free enterprise economy, price system alone performs the allocation function. The allocation function with respect to what to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce, and how to contribute for future growth. And this is, in brief, the subject matter of economics.